My next story is from the Ochil Hills, and I call it the Piper O Pendreich. Now, in olden times, people liked to keep a lot of the old pagan rituals, and no less so than around midsummer's time. In olden times, people regarded the 24th and not the 21st of June as the solstice or midsummer. And up by Loch Pendreich, below the mountain of the Maet, people would carry out many of those rituals and rites. One of the things they would do would be to gather branches from trees and twigs to decorate their windows. And they would gather all sorts of other debris and build fires, what they called bun or bonfires. And there they would give gifts to each other and lots of works of charity. But a lot of these celebrations were pretty wild. They would build fires and sit round them. And as the fire would go down and down, the young men would leap over the fire, like the old tradition in Gaeldom called Bonasa, or August. And there was much of the sug and yaur now, that is to say, the juice of the barley being consumed. Now, a lot of the people of the city didn't like this, and put in a lot of complaints to the church. But the people continued on these traditions anyway, nevertheless. But there was a piper who lived at this time, and his name was John Edmain. That was his name, John Edmain. And he loved to join in those celebrations. And he loved the ushgebehe, the water of life, the whiskey. Dancing round the fire, taking part in rituals and wild parties that would be the gossip of the day. Maybe even shock some of the people about some of the things that they got up to. And they would do this every 24th of June, which incidentally was also the same date as the Battle of Bannockburn, 1314. Well, on one of those evenings, he'd been playing his pipes and having much merriment, leaping over the fire, drinking whiskey. And he made his way after the celebrations to Drumbray, and he sat down upon a wee stane. But some folk called it the Cloch na Shia, or the Elfin Stane, or the Fairy Stone. But he wasn't aware of that. He sat down upon it, and he began to screw his pipes together, thinking, I've just got to play another tune. So he tuned up the drones, and he began to play some jigs and reels and strathspey, and started walking around the road on the place that's called Drumbray. When he looked round, there was the silhouettes of these tiny wee men. One with a red cap, one with swift feet, one with black toes, and one with a blue coat. These were the fairy folk, the wee folk. And they began to clap their hands, and they began to sing as the piper continued to play. You couldn't believe it. Their agility was amazing. They were leaping into the air. They were doing somersaults. He had never seen the likes of it. In fact, he was so amused by their dancing, he was almost forgot to play his pipes. When he had ended playing, the one with the red cap ducked his bonnet and he knelt down and said, "Piper, our piper has gone to a tryst in Aberfoyle. Would you like to pipe for us tonight?" "Certainly," said the piper, "but I want a piper's wage." But normally in those days, a piper's wage was a good flagon of whiskey or wine. "Oh, no," said the wee folk, "we canna gie you that. But I'll tell you what we'll gie you. We'll gie you a nicht in Elfinland, a night in Fairyland, and an elf's arrow. Would that do you?" "Oh," he said, "when do I start?" He said, "You can start right now." So he blew into his bag again and tuned up the drones, and he began to play, and the wee folk started dancing around him in a circle, leaping into the air, doing triple somersaults, and landing on top of the other fairies. And he had never seen such agility. Some of them leapt into the air, higher than the piper himself. Amazing! I'd never seen the likes of it. He was mesmerised by their performance. When all that was over, a wee one, seeing that the piper was exhausted by the playing, took a wee horn from under his breast, and he began to play. He was just never seen anything like it. They formed a ring around him, and they began to go 3 oor in Jeshal, 3 times sunwise. That was the old Celtic ritual. Singing this plaintive song. On a leaf, ho, he griansi a gedi. On a leaf, ho, ho. Njerst oshin vinjarst. On a leaf, ho, he oskerikich. On a leaf, ho, ho. Reciting the names of the heroes of Celtic legend. This dreamy song, and the piper fell asleep. When he woke up, he was in this circular cavern. And oh, the candelabra that lit up the place. And in the middle of it, a round table. And on the table, there was vessels of silver and of gold and of crystal. And the wee folk, they beckoned the piper to sit down at the table. And they put the food on the dishes for him that the fairies would eat. And he was very hungry, and he began to eat, and he began to drink. And it wasn't long after that one of the wee fairies blew his horn, and there entered into the cavern, 2 by 2, a train of more wee fairy folk, and at the head of them, oh, a beautiful woman and a beautiful man, both crowned. This was the king and the queen of fairydom. And they danced around the room, and he sat at the table. And they shouted, hurrah for the king and hurrah for the queen. And the piper was impelled to do the same. And at this, the king shouted, change! And as if by magic, the round table disappeared from the middle of the floor. And there was a great soft carpet beneath them. It felt like moss. Then he shouted, now, dance! And the wee folk immediately put themselves in a row, knelt down on hands and knees. And one of the wee men jumped upon their back and started doing somersaults between one and another, making these funny wee whistling noises. And there was music coming from the background as the wee folk were having a marvellous time, and everybody was clapping their hands to the music as they did acrobatics that would defy all the laws of natural science. When that was over, the king shouted, now we'll have another piper play. And the piper picked up his pipes, and he blew into the bag. And he began to play, and all the wee folk joined together in twos to a minuet, followed by a waltz, followed by an aid sombrero. And when that was over, just like someone had switched the lights out, he woke up. And when he woke up, he was in what was then the township of Pendreich, which is now where the farm is. And he wondered if it was a dream or something, but he looked into his sporran, and what did he see but an elfin's arrow? And he said to himself, well, if I hadn't sat on the elfin's stane, I wouldn't have believed it was true. And that's how we know the story was true, because the arrow was in his sporran. And so goes the story of the Piper O Pendreich.